Well, hello everyone, and welcome once again to another Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 stream. I hope you're all as excited as I am for this next flight that we will be doing this evening. I sure am very excited. I think this will be a very interesting flight. Now, sorry for the slight delay there. I was still loading up the sim and all of that, even though the timer hit 0, but it wasn't too bad, I hope. Now, before we begin, I would like to ask you guys if the audio is all fine or if there's something that I should improve or anything like that. Like maybe there's an echo or something on the audio. So if there is a problem like that, do let me know in the chat and I'll try to fix it if I can. But yeah, as you can see on the screen right in front of us, we will be flying the beautiful Cessna Citation CJ4 by working title. Now, this aircraft is available in the sim by default, but we are not flying the default version today. We are actually, like I said, flying the working title version, which is basically a mod that you can download for free for this aircraft, and it modifies the aircraft and makes it into an actual uh, high quality aircraft that you can fly basically anywhere in the world, and it's an absolutely great mod, so I do recommend it to everyone. I've put a link in the description of this stream, so if you want to download it yourself, you are more than free to do so. And I've also put a link to the sceneries that we are going to be using during the stream today. The first one being the airport that we are parked at now, which is Antwerp Airport, which is also my home airport. Because as some of you might know, I actually live in Belgium, in Antwerp in particular. So every time I go to university, I actually pass by this airport, and I often see propeller aircraft and even some airliners fly out of this airport. So I do have a special connection, sorry, with this airport. Also, if you zoom in a little bit to the terminal area over there, right there, it's actually a cafe that I used to visit quite a lot back in the day, just a couple of years ago. Sadly, it went out of business a couple of years ago, so I haven't visited it anytime recently, but hopefully sometime in the future it will be taken over by some other company or something like that, because it does give you a very nice view of the ramp area, especially when there's like to the left of us here, there's an Embraer 190. That's actually the aircraft that flies to this airport in real life. Sadly, it's a little bit too small for aircraft like 737s and A320s, but we do often see Embraers like the one next to us from TUI, that is. So yeah, enough of me talking. Of course, you guys are here to see the actual aircraft in action. So let's jump straight into the cockpit, shall we? So here we are inside the pit of the beautiful Cessna Citation CJ4. So before we actually start to turn everything on and start programming our flight plan, it might be a good idea to first, oh yeah, first of all I need to program my flight on Volanta here, which is the application that I use for tracking my flights these days. So if you have Volanta yourself, you can always track our flight as well. We should now be parked at Antwerp International Airport, so you'll be able to find us there. Now give me a second, guys. I'm going to put everything in here, add my flight plan and all of that, so that will do its thing. And after that I can show you guys the flight plan as well, so you are aware of what we will be doing this lovely evening. So there we go, that should be all set. The only thing that remains is to fill in the flight number and all of that, and then we are ready to go on Volanta. So there we go. Now the flight plan. So let me show you guys what we will be doing today. So right now you should be able to see our handy dandy charts here on the screen right now. So let me show you the flight plan real quickly. So this is what we will be flying today. Our route here takes us all the way over the southern part of Belgium, then over Luxembourg, then a little part over France, then a very little uh, portion of the flight will take place over Germany, and then we will enter Switzerland. And all the way down here in southern Switzerland is our destination, which will be Lugano Airport, as most of you will probably know. If you've been following me on Instagram, I've posted quite some posts about this stream. Now, that's where a little bit of an awkward thing happened, because I already posted a thumbnail on Instagram and also on my Discord server, which you can join, by the way. But yeah, I posted a picture of the thumbnail, and I used flags for the countries that we will be visiting during the stream. And one of the flags of the destination airport was the flag of Italy. And like I said just now, the airport that we are flying to is actually in Switzerland. So I made a little bit of a mistake there, because for some reason I assumed that Lugano Airport was located in Italy. I was really convinced that that was the case. But apparently Lugano is just at the border of Switzerland. So I was pretty close, because as you can see, Italy is right here. So I wasn't that wrong to assume that it was in Italy, but yeah, it's apparently it's in Switzerland. So I did make a slight adjustment to the thumbnail so that it now displays the correct country. So yeah, that's basically the flight plan for today. We will review the charts in just a moment, but first let's actually get the aircraft started up, shall we? So shouldn't forget to switch back to the aircraft view here. Now, to start this aircraft up, you always want to start with the battery right here, so we'll do that. Avionics switch can stay in the dispatch mode for now. So that what that does is that only turns on the navigation display and the FMS for us. Back to this view here, we can arm the emergency exit lights and also turn on the standby instruments. That's everything we need to do here. All of that can stay in the position where it's at now. Then down to the FMC, we are going to start with the position init page. Set our coordinates here. And then before we go to the flight plan, we are first going to press this index button, then to the next page, and we are going to go to the mod set. And down here we can connect our ground power unit, and you could also adjust the lights in the cabin, but it's still nice and bright outside, so I don't see the need for lights. So we can go back and then to a route menu. So the nice thing about this mod, among other things of course, is that you don't have to actually program in your flight. If you have SimBrief and you use it and actually load a flight plan, you can just press this button right here, and that will load the flight plan for you. So as you can see, it's now loading in the flight plan. It might ask you to confirm which waypoint you want to use, since there are multiple waypoints with the same name. But in this case, it appears that the flight plan has been loaded successfully without that. So we can check real quickly if everything is correct, which it seems to be. So we can press execute, and that will do that. So now our flight plan is already loaded in. So what we can do now is we can go to the departure and arrival page, sorry, because that isn't loaded in automatically. You still have to select the departures and arrivals and all of that manually. So we are going to do that right now. According to SimBrief here, we will be departing from runway 29 on the Guillaume 4 Delta departure. So let me just program in that right now. Runway 29 is already selected as it is in green. And we also need to select this one right here. There we go. There's no transition that we need to select, so we'll just execute that. Back to the departure and arrival page. Now to the arrival airport, that is Lugano. We will be flying the Odina 7 Lima arrival, which is this one right here. And we are taking that to runway 01. But actually what we are going to do is we're going to fly the visual approach at Lugano, which takes us to runway 19 instead. So runway 19. It's quite an interesting visual approach, as you'll see in a couple of hours. I think the flight time should be 1 hour and 7 minutes according to SimBrief, so it's not really a long flight, that is. So yeah, execute this. Then that's everything for the flight plan. So what we can do obviously is check if there are no discontinuities. There's one right there, but we are going to clear that once we actually get to that waypoint. So right now we're just going to leave that as it is. What we can also do is we can press this lower menu button and we can actually check if our flight plan is actually correct. So by pressing a plan page and then to MFD advance, and then we can press next waypoint, and that will step us through the entire flight plan, like so. So everything seems to be correct. That was our top of descent there. It's always nice to see that as well. And there we go. That's our entire flight plan. Seems to be loaded in correctly. So we can switch to present position now. That's the preferred mode for the navigation display. And then we can close the lower window as lower menu as well. Now one last thing we need to do in the FMC is the performance. So perf init, according to SimBrief, again, use that for all of the figures that we need for the FMC. Our takeoff weight should be 15.2 pounds, so that's 15,200 pounds approximately. So we'll load that in right now. And that gives us a zero fuel weight of about 12,320, which is more or less what SimBrief gave us as well. And we are taking 2,800 pounds of fuel today, which is exactly what the aircraft senses that is in its tank. So that's great. Then to the takeoff page. For this, we actually need to review the weather. So I actually can show you guys this as well. If we go to this page right here. Oh, no, that's the wrong. So normally now you should be able to see the weather report. So right now at Antwerp Airport, there's a crosswind from the left, so we are departing from runway 29. So we have a very slight headwind, but mostly a crosswind of 12 knots from 210 degrees. Visibility is okay. We have a slight cloud base at 2,200 feet, and pressure seems to be all right as well. And other than that, there's not really no significant weather changes, so we can put away that now and go back to the sim itself. So let me just plug all of that into the FMC. So we'll start with the wind first, which was 210 degrees at 12 knots with a temperature of 10 degrees, so not really too warm these days. And then the altimeter was 1023, which is approximately 29.91 apparently. Can't really confirm that, but yeah. So that's all good. We can use the dry mode for the takeoff. Now if we go to next page, again you don't need to configure your V-speeds manually. You just hit the send button and that will send it to your primary flight display. As you can see there, the transfer has completed itself, so that's great. That means we can start doing some checklists now. So let me just adjust some lights here in the cockpit. We can also engage the seatbelt sign and also the navigation light and also the local light. Great, so let me just put the yoke out of our way for just a second. And let me just press checklist here, normal operating checklist, and then the before starting engines. So let's see here. Battery switch is on, emergency light switch is armed, standby flight display is on, avionics switch is in the dispatch mode, parking brake is set, wheel chocks are removed, cabin door is closed, passenger briefing, we don't need to brief our passengers today, they just need to sit back, relax and enjoy the flight. Seat belts and pedals are adjusted and secure. Exterior lights are as required. I've turned on the navigation light. ECAS, let's check that. All the normal faults, so that's checked. FMS is checked and set. Climate control selector is off, that's this switch right here. So that's the before starting engines checklist complete. Now to the starting engines checklist. So for that we can turn on our beacon light as well. There's no need to wait to start our engines. We've programmed in everything in the FMC, so we can jump straight to the engine start procedure. So throttles are in the idle position, that's confirmed. Engine starter button, so yeah, the next part of the checklist is not that important. That's only for if you don't know the actual start procedure, but we do know it. So to start these engines, you just press the starter button, and then immediately after you can press the engine run stop button here, so that it is in run. You don't have to wait until a certain N1 level or N2 level or anything like that. The FADEC system that's in charge of the engine performance actually takes care of that for you. So just at the press of a button you can start these engines up. So right now we'll continue with the checklist a little bit. So engine start button push. ITT is rising, and as well as the N1. ECAS, we can check that. The starter has just disengaged. Now the same process for the left engine. And there we go, we have two good running engines, so we can now go ahead and disconnect the ground power. That's all we need to do there. So that's the last part of our checklist. Oh no, yeah. Electrical system, we can check that as well. So everything is in the green, so that's good. Now that completes our starting engines checklist. So now the before taxi checklist. So avionics can go to the on position. Climate control selector can go to normal. Let me just turn up the sound a little bit for you guys. So climate control, that's checked. Passenger safety button can be turned on. Trims are set for takeoff, they are in the green arc. Flight controls, let's check those as well. So let me just grab the yoke again. Left aileron checked, right aileron checked, that's good on the captain's side. Now for the co-pilot. Right aileron checked, left aileron checked. And full back and full forward is checked. We can also check the rudder real quickly. Full left rudder is checked and full right rudder is checked as well. Everything for the flight controls has been checked. Speed brakes, we can also check that real quickly. I actually have a handle on my honeycomb yoke set for that. I mean Bravo throttles. So there we have them on the wing. Good on my side. Now for the co-pilot. And they are there as well, so that's checked. Back to 0. Flaps are set for takeoff. Let's do that right now. 15 degrees is what we will be using for our departure. And then the before taxi checklist, sorry. Hydraulic pressure has been checked, 3000 psi on both sides. Engine only anti-ice is as required, we don't need it today. Takeoff data is set. Avionics are checked and set. Autopilot, we can quickly engage and disengage it.
Autopilot.
So that's working. altimeter is, we can just press B for that, is set. So the pressure is actually 30.21 inches of mercury. So that's significantly higher than what the FMS was telling us. Pressurization is set, that's all good. E-gas is once again checked, there's no message. And I don't actually know what that is, so we'll just assume it's checked as well. And that was the before taxi checklist. So right now we still need to do a couple of things before we are able to taxi out. So let's brief our departure real quickly as well. So back to the charts here. So we are departing via the Guillaume 4 Delta departure. And the departure states that we climb on runway until we are above 600 feet. Then we are going to make a left turn towards 095 degrees, direct to the Bruno VOR. From there we are going to fly to Guillaume. And there's no altitude restriction, so we can go straight to our cruising altitude. And our transition altitude will be 4,500 feet here, so that's also something we need to set in the FMS before I forget. So back to perf, VNAV setup, and 4,500 in the box. That's great. Okay, so now everything is set. And our cruising altitude also will be 41,000 feet today. So we can go right ahead and set that. Like so. Can already engage nav mode as well. And that's everything for the MCP for now. Back to the checklist here. Exterior lights, we can turn on the taxi light. Also close the covers of the engines. That's checked. Brakes, we'll check those once we get started. Everything else is set. And then we have the before takeoff checklist, but we'll wait with that until we get to the actual threshold of the runway. So that's everything we needed to do, so we can actually get going right now. And I also forgot to get the tablet out of you guys' faces, but let me just quickly show you guys how we are going to taxi, and then I'll put away the tablet. So we are parked at the ramp here, so to get to runway 29 it's very simple. We just follow taxiway Bravo 1 here, so we are going to make a right turn and then another right turn, and then we are going to taxi towards Bravo 1 and from there to the threshold of the runway. So back to this scene here. Now the tablet should be out of you guys' faces. So here we go, parking brake is released. This aircraft doesn't need a lot of thrust to get go. As you can see, it's already moving. And we'll make a right turn right here. And then we'll make another right turn right over there, past the refueling station. Not going too quickly through the turns here. This aircraft has a bit of a tendency to go very fast if you don't mind the thrust. So we're practically taxiing on idle thrust here, and the aircraft is moving along nicely. And there we have a couple of hangars here. Very nice scenery in my opinion. And let's get you an outside shot here. Very nice. The weather is not that great right now, but yeah, that's to be expected in Belgium, I'm afraid. Typical Belgium weather. At least it's not raining, so yeah, that would have been quite interesting as well. Hello, David Christoph. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm doing fine. How are you? glad you could join the stream. Hope you're having a fantastic evening so far. So yeah, right now we're just taxiing towards the threshold of the runway for our departure. Can already start configuring the aircraft a little bit more for our departure. So to press the takeoff button, you actually need to press this button right here. And then as you can see, the aircraft is now in takeoff mode, which all it does is it sets the flight director to the mode that you want. The aircraft doesn't have any auto throttle or anything like that, so don't rely on that or anything like that, because otherwise you'll probably stall the aircraft. So you need to handle the throttles yourself in this aircraft. So here we are at the threshold. We'll start slowing down a little bit here. And we'll wait right here for just a second while we finish up our checklists. So set the parking brake real quickly. Landing lights can go on, and also turn on the pulse light as well, and as well as our strobe lights. So there we go. Let's put the yoke out of the way once again. So before takeoff checklist, IBS protection is not needed during this flight. Rudder buy system, I don't know what that is, but let's assume it's checked. Seats are upright and outboard. Flaps are set 15 degrees, and that's confirmed. Speed brakes are 0%. That's checked. Trims are set for takeoff. Crew briefing is complete. We briefed the departure. TCAS can be set to TARA. Radar is as required. We don't need any terrain radar or anything like that. There are no mountains or hills surrounding the airport. GA button has been pushed, which has put the aircraft into takeoff mode. Battery amps checked, less than 20 is confirmed. Ice protection systems, like I said, we don't need those. Pitot static switches are now turned on. Exterior lights are as required. And then the ECAS is checked. So that wraps up the before takeoff checklist. We can skip right through the takeoff checklist, as it is for in case you don't know how to take off with this aircraft. So we'll go straight to the after takeoff and climb checklist, but we are going to keep that there for now. So before we take off, I just need to quickly set this screen to the present position mode as well. There we go. Now we are ready to go. So let me put the yoke back there. That's great. Parking brake released. We'll check for any incoming traffic, which there isn't, it seems. I'll also switch back to the Lex page, sorry. Runway 29 is in fact confirmed. So yeah, you definitely don't want to stay too low during this departure, as there's a very big church right in front of the runway, which I can confirm isn't there in real life, so that's a bit of a mistake from the team at Asobo. So we'll line up the heading indicator with our runway heading, and we'll very quickly confirm that the departure is loaded incorrectly. So actually we can delete the second kill on waypoint and execute that. Now that should be good to go. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready, and we can go right ahead and depart. So here we go, guys. Hope you enjoy the departure. There we go. Takeoff rusty sits. Keep in mind we have a left crosswind, so we'll have to apply some right rudder during this departure. Airspeed is alive. Trying to keep her on the center line here. V1, rotate. Barely got to keep her on the runway there. Positive rate, gear up. And we'll go ahead and follow the flight director. Flaps can go up. There's 600 feet, so we'll start making our left turn, and we'll also select climb power now. So autopilot can go on, so we can focus on more important tasks. And we'll select flight level change and then 240 knots, which is our climb speed. And there we go, we are now climbing away safely. Actually, down there is my university somewhere. So I don't know exactly where it is, but it should be around this area. So that's quite nice. Anyway, let's go right ahead and do the after takeoff checklist. So landing gear is up, no lights. Flaps are 0. Throttles are in the climb position. Yaw damper is on. Autopilot is as desired. Ice protection systems are as required. Passenger lights button also as required. Landing lights button as required once again. Pressurization is checked. And the altimeters can now go to the standard mode. And that's the after takeoff checklist complete. One thing I forgot was to do the passenger briefing, but we'll be able to make up for that once we get to Lugano. Down there you can see the airport that we just departed from. And right over there is the most important port in all of Belgium. So a lot of ship traffic goes through that port, which is quite nice. Belgium kind of relies on export from other countries, I believe. And as you can see, the aircraft is now turning to intercept our flight plan. So we're now going direct to the Bun VOR. And just to show you how fast this aircraft is or how powerful the engines are, we are now climbing at 3,900 feet per minute, which if you know anything about airplanes is quite fast. So we're already at 10,000 feet, so we can go ahead and turn off our landing lights now. And also the pulse light can go off now. And there we go. That was quite a hectic departure actually. A lot of things were happening at the same time. So let me go ahead right now as we are just climbing away. We don't need to take care of anything right now, so I can go ahead and turn the music back on. So I hope you guys can hear it. Glad to see a couple of guys have have joined the stream now. Great to see you all. Hope you're having a fantastic evening so far. Of course, if you have any questions regarding the sim or just the stream in general, you can always ask them in the chat. I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. So the aircraft is now making our right turn towards the Guillaume waypoint, which is also the last waypoint of our departure. A lot of clouds surrounding us here. Very nice wing view over there. Sadly, the textures inside the cabin are not as great as I would hope. And sadly, I can't really adjust the wing view that much. So this is what we have to, this is what we, all we can get from the wing view. Which is a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, at least it's something. So actually, there was a bit of a funny thing that happened a couple of days ago when I was practicing flying this aircraft a little bit. So basically, I was flying the same livery as now, the livery that we are flying right now, which I can actually show you guys. So this livery right here. It's actually a American livery, but I was able to cover that up with my own personal tail number, so that's quite nice. But yeah, anyway, so I was flying this aircraft, and during the cruise phase, I was watching a video about a real Cessna Citation Gen 2, which was flown by the quite famous Citation Max. Some of you might know him from YouTube. He's quite popular. As his name suggests, he flies a lot of citations and all of that. So basically, I was watching a video, and I thought to myself that the livery of the aircraft that he was flying was quite familiar. And in fact, when I took a closer look at the livery, it appeared that it was the exact same livery that I was flying in the sim at that exact moment. So I thought it was quite funny. It wasn't on purpose at all, so it was a complete coincidence that I was flying the same aircraft and the same livery at the time that I was watching that video. So I thought that was quite funny actually. I wasn't able to find that many interesting liveries for these aircrafts, but I do think this one is quite nice to look at, quite nice to fly as well. Oh, aircraft is making a turn, it seems. Already at 26,000 feet, so we can probably turn off the seatbelt sign now, so that our passengers can stretch their legs a little bit. So obviously, during the cruise phase there's not really much to do, except monitor the instruments a little bit. I'll from time to time I'll check the fuel gauges to see if we still have enough fuel. That was actually a problem the default Citation had, that it would burn a lot more fuel than the actual real-life counterpart. So that seems to have been fixed with this mod, which is quite nice. So now the aircraft actually burns the correct amount of fuel. But yeah, we'll still keep an eye on that during the flight a couple of times. Flying to the clouds right now, we might have to use some anti-ice briefly, just so the wings don't ice up or anything like that. Already through the clouds, but we'll keep the anti-ice turned on for a little while to make sure everything that could have built up on the wings is definitely melted. Also during the cruise we can probably turn on the weather radar, just to keep an eye on that as well. So now everything should be in order. Let's go back to the wing view, shall we? Maybe go to this view or something like that. That should be good. So I see a couple of more people have joined the stream. Very warm welcome to you guys. Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. We are currently well on the way towards Lugano Airport, which will definitely be a very interesting approach to do. We'll obviously brief the arrival once we get closer to the airport, but basically it's actually sort of the London City airport equivalent of Switzerland. So most of you who are into aviation will probably know that London City has a very steep approach for aircraft that want to land there. If I'm not mistaken, it was 4 degrees, but at Lugano it might be even 6 degrees for the glide slope, so that's quite steep. Hello Niels Lange, welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. Glad you could join the stream with us. So yeah, like I was saying, the approach at Lugano is quite interesting. Not only because of its visual approach that you can do there, that takes you past all of the mountains and all of that, but also because the very steep approach path, which you will see later on. So yeah, I'm very excited to do that landing again. I've tried it a couple of times just to practice it a little bit so I can actually show you guys a good approach, but yeah, it's still quite challenging even though you practice it a couple of times. So yeah, for the people who are in the stream right now, I would like to check if the audio is good for you guys. Is there anything I can improve? Maybe turn up the music sounds or anything like that? If there is anything you would like to add, you are more than welcome to put it in the chat. Also, for anyone who feels like joining us actually in the sim itself, everyone who has Microsoft Flight Simulator can join us on the West European server. So yeah, if you feel like doing some formation flying, you're more than welcome to. Last stream I had a couple of guys who flew along with me, so that was very nice to see. We flew the Junkers back then in the last stream. Okay, sound is good. That's nice to hear. Very nice. Let me know if there's anything I can improve. I'll be more than happy to comply with you. Let's go back to the cockpit for a second. See what's going on here. Still surrounded by clouds, it seems. And we should be able to see a nice sunset landing either once we arrive at Lugano or once we are back on the way to Antwerp Airport, which should be very nice. Obviously we're not flying on real life time right now because right now in my home country it's already very dark, but I still wanted to do this flight in some daylight, so, because that's just nicer in my opinion, because you can see a lot more. Night flights also have something good about them, but I do prefer daylight flying. So still 3,000 feet to go until our cruise level of 41,000 feet.
altitude.
There we have the altitude warning there, alerting of us of the fact that we are approaching our cruising altitude. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, this aircraft doesn't have any sort of auto throttle system, so we'll have to monitor our speed ourselves and make sure the aircraft doesn't go into the red arc or anything like that, because that will just give us a very annoying alarm, and that's not what we want. So yeah. Our cruising power should probably be around 98% N1, so let's set that. Like so should be good. In the meantime, let's check our fuel level now. So we are approaching the demo waypoint, so let's see here what SimBrief says. So according to SimBrief, we should have about 2100 pounds of fuel on board. So if we take these two numbers together, we can see that we have more than 2100 pounds of fuel on board, so that's great. That means the aircraft has burned less fuel than anticipated. So everything should be in order for this flight. Shouldn't run into any fuel issues or anything like that. What a beautiful view. We're actually that high in the air that you can sort of make out the curvature of the Earth there. Just barely. Yeah, we are at 41,000 feet, which is an altitude that most airliners don't really fly to. Some do, some long-haul aircraft, but most aircraft stay at approximately 35,000 to 39,000 feet, I believe. So I don't really fly to this altitude that often in the sim, so it's quite nice to do it in this aircraft. So yeah, how are all of your days going so far? I would love to hear about it in the chat. Gives us something to talk about during a long flight like this. Well, it's not actually that long, but still. Actually, I do think this is a very nice wing view, better than the standard wing view the aircraft gives you. That is if you can see the sun though, that's better. Let's see here. Still, aircraft is still taking care of everything, it seems. Can zoom out a little bit more to see the entire flight plan there. It's not really neat to see the entire flight plan, of course. That's should be good enough for the range. Yeah, I'm really excited to see some of the newest aircraft for the sim in the future. We should be getting a lot of nice new add-ons in the near future, like the Phoenix Simulations A320 and all of that. Really excited for that one. And also the PMDG that should be coming hopefully at the end of this year. But yeah, the thing I'm really looking forward to is the Reno air races. That should be very fun, I think. I'm actually going to dust off my old joystick for that one because I think racing with a yoke isn't really the ideal thing to do. So I think a joystick is way better for that purpose. So yeah, I should really take that thing out of my closet and put it back on my desk for a little while and test it out. Yeah, are you guys excited for the Reno air races as well? If you have Microsoft Flight Simulator yourself? Because I sure am very excited. Back to this beautiful wing view here. Looks like we can see a little bit more of the terrain now that the clouds have cleared up here, which is quite nice. Can actually take in some of that beautiful, how do you call it, photo geometry that makes the Sims such a nice experience. So yeah, look at that. Very nice to see. And this aircraft also is very beautiful in my opinion. Also very nice that they added the contrails. Super nice to see. Or chemtrails as some of you might say. Depends. Yeah, very nice view, right? Should be even nicer soon. It seems that we are already approaching the mountains there. The Alps, that would be. Almost halfway through the flight. Not really a very long flight, thankfully. Especially in this aircraft. In the Junkers it would have taken probably all night to get to our destination, but in this aircraft it's just a matter of 1 hour and we are wheels down at the airport. Oh. Seems we ran into a bit of turbulence now, so there's the overspeed warning. Not much of a problem, we'll just reduce the thrust just a little bit. It seems the aircraft also descended a little bit, but it's getting back towards our altitude now. Can set the cruise power back to 98% N1. So yeah, we should probably expect some turbulence over the Alps. Every time I've done this flight, we have encountered some bumps along the way. So probably today will be no different. Actually, might be able to do the passenger briefing here, which is quite a nice feature about this aircraft, I think. Let's see here. Let's play the turbulence warning.
May I have your attention, please? We have received indication that we may encounter turbulence. The lighted seatbelt sign has been turned on. Please be seated and fasten your light belt.
That's quite nice, right? To have an actual in-flight briefing and all of that. Such a nice feature. And this mod is for free, by the way. So if you want to download it yourself, you can do so just by clicking the link in the description. Oh yeah, we forgot to do the cruise checklist here. So throttles are as required. Speed is getting a little bit high again, so maybe we should reduce the thrust just a little bit more. To 96% N1 or something like that. Pressurization, we're not getting any warnings, so I'll assume the pressurization is good as well. Ice protection systems, we don't need those. And that's the cruise checklist completed. So there's the descent checklist ready to go for once we start our descent into Lugano Airport. So maybe it's a good time once again to check our fuel gauges, see if we are still in the green. So right now we have more than 18,000 pounds of fuel on board. So let's compare that to SimBrief. First of all, let's check. We just crossed the Begar waypoint. So let's see. According to SimBrief, we should have an estimate of 17,000 pounds of fuel on board. So again, we have more than what we need on board, so that's great. So yeah, so far our fuel predictions. Let's also review the METAR for Lugano Airport. So we are probably going to have a tailwind during the landing, but that's obviously since we are landing on the wrong runway, since the wind does favor runway 01, but for the sake of the beautiful visual approach, we are not going to use that runway, but instead we are going to fly around the airport towards runway 19. So it's only a 2 knot wind, so, and it's also from variable direction, so it doesn't really matter that much on which runway we land. But yeah, apart from that, there are no clouds according to the weather report, and the temperature is actually quite cold, only 3 degrees Celsius. So yeah, quite a chilly day over there. And we can sync up the heading again. Right in front of us we can see the beginning of the Alps there. Very nice, covered in snow it seems. Very nice to see. We'll soon be right on top of it. For now we can still enjoy the beautiful views that we are getting of Europe here, while the sun hasn't set yet. Hello there, Hans Schneider. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. Right now we're just cruising above the skies of Germany, I believe. That's where we are currently. So yeah, just chilling a little bit. Sure, yeah, what's your question? I would love to help you if I'm able to do so. You're more than welcome to ask your questions here. Oh, you're from Germany? Nice. I could sort of tell from your last name, but yeah. That's very nice that you're from Germany. Which part? Or which city, I should say. For those of you who are just now tuning into the stream, welcome aboard. Hope you're all having a fantastic evening today. We are already more than halfway into the flight and we are going to start our descent in just a moment. Let's check how close we are to the top of descent. Yeah, take your time. And Hannes Schneider, you can take all the time you need for your question. I'll still be here. Okay, so as you can see right there, that's the top of descent. So that's the point where we are going to start our descent. So still a little bit of time left until then. So maybe now is a good time to actually brief the arrival. Oh wait. So what's the problem with your A320neo? I actually don't really fly the aircraft that much myself, but maybe I'm able to help. So we're actually really getting close to the top of the descent now, so I'm going to first of all zoom in a little bit. And our final altitude for this approach will be, if I remember correctly, 6,000 feet. So let's already set that in the MCP, so that's ready to go. Like so, and let me very quickly pull up the charts for you here. So let's start with the arrival. Pretty straightforward. We are going to fly via the Odina 7 Lima arrival. So we are going to fly from Odina to the actual airport. Then we are going to fly all the way to Pinnick. And from there we are going to join the IGS for runway 01. We are going to fly that until we reach a distance of 1.7 nautical miles from the localizer system. And from there we are going to fly the visual approach for runway 19. So more information on that once we actually get to the approach, but that's a rough picture of it for now. And I can see another comment here. Okay, so you're experiencing a problem with your Thrustmaster throttles, is that correct? So I personally don't use those throttles, so I don't really know if I can be of much assistance with that, but maybe if you could give a description of what exactly the problem is, because I can't really make it out right now. So we can also go into the tune page now and set our localizer frequency, which is quite important for this approach. So that is 108.9. Like so. And then very quickly I'm going to change to heading mode and then switch the nav source to VOR1 so we can actually set the course, which is 017 degrees. There we go, that's it. Back to FMS and then back to nav mode. And then I'm also going to engage VNAV now. So as you can see, the path is now armed, which you can see by the fact that it's marked in white. So yeah, that's all set. We can probably also set our minimum altitude, which will be our pattern altitude of 2600 feet. How do I say it? Not above ground level, but above sea level. So 2600 feet above sea level will be our minimum altitude. So let's go ahead and set that as well. So we need a barrow. Ooh, that's way too much. There we go. Right on the mark. So that's all set as well. Aircraft has started its descent, so we can now reduce the throttle. And we should also extend the speed brakes a little bit to assist the aircraft. And as you can see, the path mode is now disengaged, so we should switch to flight level change real quickly to allow the aircraft to recapture the descent path. There we go, it has done it. Oh, okay, so I get it now. So the throttle is stuck in the climb detent, is that correct? So yeah, you should probably check your bindings maybe in your settings page. But yeah, like I said, I don't use the throttles, the Thrustmaster throttles myself, so I use the honeycomb throttles, so I don't really have a very good idea of what the problem, what causes your problem. But I might recommend you actually send an email or something like that, or go to a forum of people who do know a lot more about this specific throttle quadrant, because that's quite a difficult bug, it seems. Have you looked up any tutorials? Because most of the time tutorials are quite easy to follow, especially about subjects like that. So I do recommend doing that if you haven't already. Let's zoom in here on the flight plan a little bit. Aircraft is having a bit of trouble staying on the descent path, it seems. I do think a bunch of people have the Thrustmasters. So there's definitely something on the internet about it you should be able to find, probably. That's great. Should probably find something right away, I believe. In the meantime, we can now do the descent checklist as well. So pressurization is once again checked, ice protection is set, altimeters, we don't need to set those yet. Exterior lights are required for now. We can probably turn off the logo light now, and also the seatbelt sign can go back on. So that's our descent checklist completed. Aircraft is still having trouble catching up with the descent path, so let's once again extend the speed brakes a little bit. Let's switch to flight level change again, once again. Because the aircraft doesn't like the descent path, it seems. Yes, see you later. I hope the suggestions I was able to give you helped a little bit. And if you do like my content, you can always subscribe to the channel. I make actually a lot of tutorials on stuff like that, so on how to calibrate certain things and how to set up throttles and all of that. So do be sure to give a sub to the channel. It helps out a lot. But yeah, if you're not sticking around for the stream, I'll see you in the next one, I hope. So see you later. We are getting quite close to the airport now, actually. The airport should be down there. I think I can already see it. It just went below the nose. Aircraft is still descending quite nicely. Let's zoom in once again. Sync up the heading here. And we should probably start slowing down a little bit, because that will help with the turn performance. So about 119 knots should be good, I think. And there's the airport right there, right below us. So for this visual approach, we will be flying right around this mountain here, and around here we will be starting our turn back towards the airport. So that should be fun. And the aircraft once again needs our help with the descent here. And also slowing down a little bit more. There we go. We are now at 109, approximately 200 knots, so that's great for our approach. And we're also approaching 10,000 feet, so landing lights can go back on. And the flaps can stay where they are for now. We don't need those just yet. Let's set the altimeter for the airport now as well. So the altimeter is apparently 30.24 inches. And again, the aircraft has lost the VNAV profile, so let's just disengage VNAV altogether and just descend to our altitude manually. And let's also extend the first notch of flaps now to help with the drag a little bit more. And now seems like a good time to clear this discontinuity here. So execute that. That took care of that. That's great. That got rid of our notification here on the screen. And actually now we need to
Altitude.
switch to heading mode real quickly. And I'm going to grab the chart here. We're going to turn towards 242 degrees. And there's 6,000 feet, so add some thrust again. Can retract the spoilers as well. And as soon as we are able, we will turn back towards the airport and intercept the ILS for the runway. So we'll continue on this heading for just a little while before we turn back. Can probably also switch to nav mode now, so we can actually see the localizer and also the glide slope right over there. So right about now should be a good moment to turn back towards the airport. And as we are getting close to the airport, it seems like a good time to turn off the music as well for just a second, so I can hear myself think again. So we want to go approximately direct to the Pinnick waypoint. We are currently still at 190 knots. And look at this view. Quite nice actually. Currently turning back towards the airport. So the intercept angle will be not too steep, so that's great. So the aircraft won't overshoot, I think. Speaking of the localizer, there it is. We are now intercepting it, and we can also switch to approach mode now, which will arm the glide slope, and we can also turn off VNAV now. We don't need that anymore. And there we go, the aircraft has intercepted the localizer. You can already see the airport down there. And terrain radar is probably pretty good to have during this approach. So let's now do the approach checklist. Oh yeah, landing data, we almost forgot about that. Very quickly. So the temperature is 3 degrees. Altimeter is 1024. Wind is variable at 2 knots, so that doesn't really matter that much. And the conditions are dry, so we can send the approach speed. There we go, that has been sent. So landing data is set, crew briefing complete, avionics and flight instruments are checked. Minimums have been set. Fuel transfer selector is off, external lights are as required, ice protection is as required. Flaps are 15 degrees, we are now intercepting the glide slope, so we'll monitor that. Passenger briefing is complete, seats are upright, yes, that's all great, okay. There we go, that's the checklist completed. Can reduce the thrust again. And I'm going to set a altitude of 2600 feet, which will be our level off altitude for the visual approach. So right now things are about to get a little bit more hectic. So at a distance of 1.7 nautical miles, which we can see here, we are going to make a turn towards 042 degrees. So I'm going to set that heading right now, like so. And gear is coming down, and also the next notch of flaps. That should help us slow down and get back onto the glide slope. We are quite high, as you can see. It's a pretty steep approach, but we are supposed to be a little bit less high than this, so don't worry, we can make up for it quite easily. And actually, I'm going to take over from the aircraft now to actually assist with the descent. Yeah, so keep an eye on that distance reading there. As soon as it hits 1.7, we are going to make our turn. And there's our altitude, so we can level off now.
Minimums.
Checked. And we should also add some thrust now. Trim the aircraft out a little bit. And there's 1.7, so let's select heading mode now. There we go. Getting a little bit too low, so let's correct our altitude a little bit. Speed is good. So before landing, checklist: gear is down, flaps are full, aircraft is not quite trimmed yet, still making sure everything's fine. Lights are all set, minimums are set, speed is good. So right now I'm just looking at my Navigraph chart to see when we need to start our final turn towards the airport. So once we start our turn, I'm not immediately going to start the descent because we actually want a steep approach path with this airport. That's actually what you're supposed to do at this airport. So we are going to wait with our final descent just a little while. So at this point we can start our final turn towards the airport. Keeping an eye on our altitude there. Airport should appear right there any second now. And we can probably start a shallow descent now of approximately 500 feet per minute. Also keep an eye on the speed, we are getting a bit too fast. So there's the airport right there. Getting quite close to the terrain, as you could hear that 500 feet warning. There it is again. And as you can see from the PAPI lights, we are in fact too low for this approach, so we will level off just a little bit. And there we go, we are now on the glide path, so we can now start our final descent. Also increase the turn rate just a little bit here. There we have the airport in sight. Still a bit too low, that's fine. And back on glide slope. Right above the thresholds. Thrust to idle. And there we go, we are on the ground. Correction, now we are on the ground. So spoilers are out, decelerating. And there we go, guys. Welcome to Lugano Airport. It's quite a hectic approach. A lot of things to do at the same time. But we made it, so that's great. Let's turn around on this runway and taxi to the ramp area. We had a little bit of a bounce during that landing for some reason. I thought it was a pretty soft landing, but apparently not. I wouldn't call it a butter landing, but actually it might have been quite hard. But I actually recorded the landing, so we'll see in just a moment how hard this landing actually was. Yeah, flaps can be retracted again, radar can go off, we don't need it anymore. And we actually don't need the pitot heat as well, we can turn that off as well, like so. And then we'll vacate the runway right here. Landing lights and strobe lights can go off as well, taxi light can go back on, it is already on, there we go. And then we'll park right over there. But you know what, maybe over there is a better spot, so we do not need to push back or anything like that. Because this aircraft doesn't have any kind of reverses or anything like that, so let's park the aircraft over here. Right around here should be good enough. Parking brake is set. So yeah, like I said, I recorded this landing, so let's take a look and see how bad or how good it actually was, shall we? But first I need to finish up my flight here on Volanta, so that it doesn't do any weird stuff when we try to replay this landing. But yeah, here's the application that I'm using for our replay here. Flight Recorder. It is a free add-on that you can download from FlightSim.2, and it's actually quite nice. So let's take a look at this replay. So here we are, just about to turn back towards the airport with the very nice sunset over there. And we're just passing by all of the mountains and hills, which makes this approach very nice actually. So the airport is right over there. At this point we were already descending, but I probably should have waited a little while longer. But yeah, that's fine. Normally you have to come in pretty steep at this airport. We did manage to do the turn quite well, I feel like. Didn't overshoot the runway that much. Yeah, we were low on the glide slope pretty much all the time, so that's something to improve next time we go to this airport. At this point we were finally sort of on glide slope, but not very much. So at this point I was reducing the thrust to idle and starting the flare, coming in quite hot it seems. Barely managed to save that, but for some reason we went back into the air and then we slammed it into the ground. So the initial touchdown was quite soft, but then somehow I managed to screw it up just a little bit. But yeah, this aircraft does stop on a dime, so I wasn't really worried about the stopping distance. But yeah, that was the replay, so let's pause the replay here, go back to the ramp area and then stop the replay. And then we can shut down the engines for just a while. Tax light can go off as well as the seatbelt sign. Can cancel those warnings. And the N1 and N2 has dropped below 10%, so we can probably turn off the beacon light and shut him up as well. There we go. That can go off as well for now. And we'll go down here and we'll set the ground power unit again, so that the battery doesn't run out, of course. And we'll also turn on the cabin light just a little while, so the passengers in the back can actually see what they are doing there. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that landing. I certainly did. And right now I'm going to go on a quick 5-minute break, so I can go to the little men's room, and I can also plan the next flight back to my home airport in Antwerp. So yeah, we'll see you back in 5 minutes approximately. So be sure to stick around. So guys, I'm back from my toilet break and ready to go for our second leg of this of tonight's live stream, which will be back to my home airport in Antwerp. Let me just turn down the music again a little bit. That's better. So I've already loaded in the flight plan for our next leg, and for some reason I can't get the checklist system to work again, so we'll just have to do without it this time, but that's fine. And why is my mouse not responding? Okay, that's weird that my mouse is not really doing what I want it to do. Not really sure what's going on with that right now. Okay, be right back, guys. It appears to have something to do with flight sim, so I might just have to refresh the sim once again. Be right back. Okay, now I'm back for real. So I don't know what just happened, but for some reason my mouse had a little bit of a stroke there. But everything's good now, so I'm starting back up the sim. It wasn't actually sim related, so that's a bit of a waste of time, but that's fine. Things like that happen, I guess. But everything's back to normal right now. As you can see, I can move my mouse just normal. So let's brief the charts right now. So we are departing via the Ometo 1 Echo departure, which is this one right here. So let's see what this says right here. We are departing from runway 01, which is this runway right here. So we are going to climb our runway heading to a distance of 2.0 nautical miles from the localizer, I presume. Then we are going to make a right turn at a maximum speed of 150 knots and at a minimum bank angle of 25 degrees towards the Lugano waypoint, where we need to be at or above 5,000 feet. Then to Pinnick, where we need to be at or above 6,000 feet. And then all the way to the Ometo waypoint. So these altitude restrictions shouldn't be a problem for us. This aircraft can climb quite fast, so everything should be good. So let's also look up the charts now for our arrival airport, which is Antwerp Airport. So our arrival will be the Betty 4 Alpha arrival, which is this one. Pretty straightforward, just a straight line towards the airport, and we are going to land on runway 29, so that's this runway right here. So straight in landing, we are going to be using the ILS, which is also pretty straightforward, nothing too fancy. And then finally the ground chart, which we probably won't be using that much, but it's nice to have anyway. So that's everything for that. I've updated the flight overlays, so now it displays the next arrival airport. And yeah, now we just wait for the sim to load up again after our slight faff with the mouse. So here we are back in the sim, so now you guys get to see how I actually set up my flights. Not that difficult, of course. For those of you who have Flight Simulator yourself, you'll probably find this very easy. So our fuel that we are taking today is 2,900 pounds, or almost 3,000 pounds, so we'll just set that. Like so. And then we want a takeoff weight of 15,400 pounds approximately. So 15.4. Close enough. And then we want to keep our CG within limits, so there we go, that should be good. And at what hour did we actually land? I can't remember. So we depart, let's just say it was 16:58 or something like that, I don't know. And then back to Lugano Airport. We had parked at this spot, I think, if I remember correctly. So yeah, the hour should be like that. That's great. Okay. The weather is still the same at the airport, so that shouldn't cause any issues. So here we are back at the aircrafts. Shouldn't waste any time, let's just go to the same flows as at the beginning of the stream. Gonna go through it a little bit faster than I did in the first leg. There we go, flight plan is loaded in. That's the arrival that we want. And then for the ILS runway 29. And our transition will be probably, well, we won't be taking a transition for this, I believe. It's taking quite a long time, it seems, to load this approach for some reason. Don't know why that is. So let's try that again. ILS for runway 29. There we go. And we won't be using any transition. Check for any discontinuity, that's fine. We won't have to check the actual flight plan. I'll assume it's all good. And we'll just switch to present position. Like so. Okay, so that's all set there. Back to the perf page. So our takeoff weight was 15.4. So takeoff, we can set the altimeter, which was 1024. Outside temperature of 3 degrees, quite cold, and a variable wind. Can speak today of 2 knots. Next page, send the V speeds over. Like so, they are loaded in. And now let's do some checklists. So again, normal operating checklist. For starting engines. All of that is set, yep. Starting engines, okay, the throttles are at idle, is confirmed, and we'll start with the right engine, so go right ahead and start that. Also, beacon light should be turned on as well. And we'll continue with this checklist a little bit. ITT is rising, N1 as well. Everything else is in the green. So for our departure, we are going to taxi towards that runway right there. It's quite a short taxi. So at this point, I can show you the passenger briefing as well. Maybe turn off the music for that. And then turn up the sound of the cabin just a little bit.
May I have your attention, please? Welcome aboard the Citation CJ4 aircraft. Your flight crew will make every effort to make your trip a pleasant one. At this time, please refer to the passenger briefing card located near your seat for important safety-related information. Smoking is prohibited aboard this aircraft while the no smoking lights are illuminated and prohibited in the lavatory at all times. Aviation regulations require passenger compliance with lighted no smoking and seatbelt signs, placards, as well as flight crew instructions. For taxi, takeoff, and landing, please ensure that your lap belt and shoulder harness are fastened and all portable electronic devices are turned off. Tables, luggage, and loose articles must be stowed and secured. Seats must be in the upright and outboard
Oh, there we go,
position,
2 good
and your
engines.
headrest extended per instructions.
Let's go ahead and
near your seat.
disengage the ground
To
power
fasten your
unit.
lap belt, place the flat
Oh,
belt
we
pin
never
into
engaged the
buckle.
unit
Pull on
to
the
begin
lap
with, so
belt
that's
strap to tighten the
fine.
lap belt. To
Then we
fasten
can
the
continue with the
shoulder harness,
checklist.
pull the shoulder harness strap across and in front of you and hook the metal end onto the stud located on your lap belt. To release your lap belt, depress the latch release on the top portion of the buckle. To release the shoulder harness, unhook the metal end from the stud. Because of the possibility of unexpected turbulence, please keep your lap belt securely fastened about you at all times while in your seat.
Flight
In the
controls
event of
are
cabin
checked.
depressurization, oxygen masks will automatically
Speed
drop
brakes
from overhead
are
compartment.
checked as well.
Locate the nearest mask, pull the mask down to
And
the full
flaps are
length of
set
the
to
tubing, and
15
place
degrees.
it over your nose and mouth. Adjust masks by pulling the elastic straps and breathe normally. Don your mask prior to assisting others with their masks. An emergency exit is located at the right side of the aft cabin.
Autopilot.
To open the emergency exit, remove the plastic panel covering the release handle. Turn the handle in the clockwise direction. Pull the top of the emergency exit inward, lifting the base out of the opening and into the cabin. Discard the
So
emergency
taxi light
exit
can go on,
overboard.
as well as
Exit
the
cabin
logo
by
light.
stepping through the opening onto the wing and continue
still doing his departure briefing, so in the meantime we'll set our cruising altitude of our initial cruising altitude should be 30,000 feet, and then we'll do a step climb a little bit further into the flight to 43,000 feet, which is even higher than our first cruising altitude of the first leg. There we go, 30,000 feet. We'll engage nav mode, also press the takeoff button, and we'll go ahead and taxi towards the runway. So we're gonna have to go right through this poor guy here, because he's kind of in our way.
And tighten the strap. For children, wrap the belt around a leg, buckle, and tighten the strap. Inflate the life vest after exiting the plane by pulling downward on both
Sorry, my
leg
dude,
tabs.
we're gonna have to
If the
pass
life
through
vest
you,
fails to
and you're
inflate,
gonna have to pass through
blow
our
into the
airplane for a
manual
sec.
inflation tubes attached
You'll
to
be
the
fine.
vest. For information on the location and use of fire extinguishers, as well as
So
other
landing lights and
emergency
strobe
or
lights can
survival
also go
equipment,
back on.
refer to your passenger briefing
Check
card
that there's
or
no
consult
incoming
your
traffic
flight
or
Thank
on
you.
either
Have a
side, which there
pleasant
isn't.
flight.
And the passenger briefing has finally finished, so that's great. That means we can depart as soon as we get to the threshold after we complete our checklist. So here we are at the end of the runway. We'll slow down a little bit so we don't overshoot or anything. And we'll turn back towards the center line. And we shouldn't stop in the middle of the runway, of course. There we go. Let's just stop here for a second and finish our checklist. So ice protection, that's all great. Rudder bias, yes. Seats, flaps are 15 degrees confirmed. Speed brakes are 0%. Trims are set. Crew briefing complete. TCAS, TARA set. Radar, we'll turn on the terrain radar. GA button is pushed. Battery amps checked. Ice protection systems checked. Pitot static system can go on. Exterior lights as required. And e-gas is checked. So can skip this checklist and leave that for now. Get our yoke back. And there we go, we are ready for our departure. So let's sync up the heading once again. So here we go, guys. Takeoff thrust is set. Airspeed's alive. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. I can go to climb thrust and flaps can be retracted. And we'll go ahead and turn on the autopilot once again. And select our speed of 240 knots. Or no, we are actually supposed to be at 150 knots during these turns, so we'll set that for now. Almost forgot that. So we'll make sure we don't crash into any mountains or anything like that. Yeah, according to the terrain radar, we should be in a good spot. So probably we can actually start accelerating to 240 knots now. Doesn't really matter that much anymore. Like so. Actually, what was our transition altitude here? 6,000 feet. So at that altitude, we'll switch to our standard barometric pressure. In the meantime, we can go straight to Pinnick, like so. There we have our airport down there. See you again soon, Lugano Airport. It has been great going to this airport once again. There we go, there's 6,000 feet, standard altimeter. Zoom out a little bit and we'll start doing some more checklists. Landing gear is up, no lights, flaps are 0, throttles are in the climb position, yaw damper is set. Autopilot as required, ice protection as required, passenger lights. I'm in a good mood today, so we'll just turn off the seatbelt sign right away. Landing lights button as required, pressurization is checked, and altimeters are set. And we are now on our way back to Antwerp. It's probably going to be dark already once we arrive at Deurne Airport, but that's fine. Then I can get a bit of night landing experience as well. And there's 10,000 feet, so landing lights can be turned off, as well as the taxi lights. We'll be making a turn back towards the mountains there pretty soon, once we get a little bit higher.
altitude.
So there's our initial cruising altitude, almost. Let's see at which waypoint we can start our step climb. So SimBrief says it's at the survey waypoint. Let's see where that's at. Okay, so it's not the next waypoint, but the waypoint after that, and once we reach that, we can start a step climb towards 43,000 feet, where we will stay for the duration of the flight. And right now we are cruising above these beautiful mountains here. I can never get over the fact that this looks so beautiful in this sim. Really quite a difference between this and X-Plane 11. X-Plane 12 is really gonna have to step up its game if it wants to keep up with a sim like this, I feel like. Because how can you possibly beat a view like this? Come on. Unless X-Plane has the same photo geometry system like Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's gonna be very hard to compete, I feel like. So let's go down here to the perf page and let's already set our new cruising level. Like so, and we'll also set that in the MCP as well. Like so, there we go. And now we just wait until we reach Survey. It's quite bumpy above the Alps, as you can see by the amount the wing goes up and down. So there we go, we have passed the Survey waypoint. You can see it on my Navigraph charts there. So let's now start climbing towards our next flight level. So our max speed was Mach 0.64, so we'll set that. Thrust is still in climb power, so that's good. And we are now climbing to 43,000 feet. Let's see here how we are doing on the fuel. Okay, so we have more than 2200 pounds on board. Let's see what Sim Briefs wants us to have. So that's exactly what SimBrief wants us to have on the aircraft. It says 200 pounds of fuel, so that's exactly what we have. So fuel burn is still all right, so that's great. We are still quite a way from our cruising altitude. In the meantime, we'll just enjoy this beautiful sunset here with the view of the Alps and all of that. For the people who are just tuning into the stream, be sure you are subscribed to the channel. It helps me out a tremendous amount to get this live stream to as many people as possible. And also, let's try to get this video up to as many likes as we can. All of those things help the channel out to get the algorithm to really recommend our channel to more people. So if you're interested in seeing the flight progress, you can always track my flight on Volanta. We are currently cruising from Lugano Airport to Antwerp Airport, so you should be able to find us that way.
Altitude.
Nope. Seems like we are about to hit our cruising altitude. Climb rate has been decreased to only 800 feet per minute. So what I've just done is I've switched from terrain radar to weather radar, because obviously at this height we couldn't possibly run into any terrain, right? So, and let's do the cruise checklist now as well. Throttles are set, pressurization is set, ice protection is as required, and that's the cruise checklist, so that's done. Can turn off the checklist for now, so we can take a look at the systems page. Everything is in the green, as is expected. Yeah, we are cruising at 43,000 feet now. Let's take a look at this beautiful outside view here. So in about 45 minutes we should arrive at Antwerp International Airport, which is still quite a way to go. In the meantime, let's go back to the cockpit. We might be able to take a look at an article that I found, or I got notified of, I should say, about the DC-10 or KC-10 for Microsoft Flight Simulator that is coming. There was a new article about it, which was quite interesting. I wasn't able to read it, so maybe we should do it now. Then you guys can read it as well. If I can find it at least. Shouldn't be too hard though. Yeah, for some reason I can't really find the article that I saw earlier this day, so let's leave it for another time then. Oh, the weather at Antwerp seems quite interesting. Seems like we're gonna have a bit of a wind gusts, and also light rain, so that should make things interesting, especially in the dark. Temperature is still quite cold, only 10 degrees. Not that that really matters for our approach. It's especially the wind and the visibility that matters. Visibility is good though, as well as the cloud base. But yeah, that the rain might disappear as soon as we get to the airport, but let's hope not, because that makes flying into an airport like that way more interesting. For now, let's go back to the outside view. Here we go. So now I was able to find the right how should I say this article. God, that was the word I was looking for. The right article that I was talking about for the KC-10. This is it right here. So the KC-10/DC-10. So it has been confirmed that it will probably also be a DC-10. As you can see on the picture, KC-10 was a military aircraft, so they wouldn't fly in the FedEx livery. So that's very nice, actually, that the DC-10 is coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator. So an early look into the aerodynamics KC-10/DC-10 for MSFS 2020. So that's quite exciting. So real life pilots are actually working along with this project, so that's definitely promising. So the KC-10 is a tanker aircraft. I wonder if we will actually be able to do things like mid-air refueling with this aircraft, but that's still to be seen. That remains to be seen. So it's developed by Aerodynamics, and here we got some very nice screenshots of the interior. So for a work in progress aircraft, it actually looks pretty good, especially for a freeware aircraft. Also an aircraft that still has a flight engineer, so that's nice. And here we have an outside view, looking very good. So the KC-10 is actually a modified DC-10 freighter. I believe that's what the F stands for, so I wonder if the DC-10 version will also have these screens. I guess not, since it's a DC-10, but we'll see. I do think I prefer the classic look of the DC-10. Here we have some other screenshots of the interior once again. A closer look at the displays, which seem to be custom made, so that's very nice to see actually. Another outside shot here. A close-up view of the display. Very nice. Airspeed indicator is looking good, and the vertical speed indicator, very nice. Another outside shot. Another shot of the throttles with the FMS here. That does seem to be the default FMS, so that's I'm a bit skeptical about that. And I'm also a bit skeptical about the just the flight model in general, actually. I'm don't want to get my hopes up too high for this aircraft, since it might have a very bad flight model, but I do hope it will be quite decent. At least as decent as it looks, because honestly it looks very nice, the cockpit, for now. But yeah. If you want to give this article a read yourself, I'll post or try to post a link in the chat, so give me just a second. And we'll go back to the normal scene. Let's see if I can post this in the chat. There we go. So if you want to read the article yourself, you can do so by clicking the link I just posted in the chat. It's quite an interesting read, I think. So yeah. the stream. I hope you're having a fantastic evening today, or day, or morning, wherever you are. So right now we are just cruising above Europe a little bit. Cruising above France to be exact. On our way to Antwerp Airport. We're already halfway through the flight. And we're actually not that far from our top of drop, so... I mean, in the meantime, we're just watching this beautiful sunset here to our left. And listening to just some nice beats. So, as we are getting quite close to the top of drop now, this seems like a good time to start our descent planning. So let me open up the charts. Nope, that's not the right button. There we go. Starting off with the arrival. So, like I said earlier, pretty straightforward. We are coming from Batty, then to the Flora VOR, then to the Bruno VOR, and then straight to Antwerp International Airport, where we will join the ILS for runway 29. Transition level is by ATC, so we'll just switch to the barometric pressure whenever we feel like it. Then for the ILS approach, our final altitude will be 1500 feet, at which we will be intercepting the glide slope, which is a normal glide slope this time of 3 degrees approximately. And our minimum altitude will be 2000 feet AGL. And our ILS frequency is 111.75 with a course of 289 degrees. So we'll set all of that during our descent. For now we can relax a little bit more. Hopefully it will still be a little bit light once we arrive at the airport, because that will give us some very nice views. So yeah, look at the cockpit right now, how nice it looks. Can even see all of the marks on the glass window, which is super nice in my opinion, super detailed. Yeah, just look at that view. Very nice. Can see the lights down there as well. And we're getting quite close to the top of descent now, so I'm going to set the final altitude for our flight, which is 1500 feet. Like so. Still doing good on the fuel. We have more than enough to get to our destination. And I'll go ahead and engage VNAV right away. And once the aircraft intercepts the descent profile, it will automatically start its descent towards 1500 feet. And there we have our descent profile. The aircraft is now starting its descent, so we'll reduce the throttle so we don't overspeed the aircraft. But we'll let it accelerate just a little bit. Don't need to fly quite that slow once we get a little bit lower. And I will also start to program some more things into the FMC here. So go to the approach page. Let's refresh the weather for the airport one more time. So temperature is 10 degrees. Wind is coming from 210 at 13 knots. And the pressure is 1021, which is the same as 30.15 inches. And we'll also use the wet conditions for this landing, as the weather report is saying that there's light rain at the airport. So yeah. And I will send the VREF and V approach speed to the PFD, like so. Actually, I wonder what's on the next page. No, not much. Nothing important. Let's go to the tuning radio and we'll set the ILS frequency, which was 111.75. Normally this aircraft is supposed to automatically tune ILS frequencies, but I don't really trust the system that much, so I'm just going to set it myself. I'm also going to switch to heading mode real quickly in order to change the course, which has to be 289 degrees. Like so, back to FMS, and let's engage nav mode once again. And let's zoom in a little bit as well. Seatbelt sign should probably also come back on.
May I have your attention, please? The captain has turned on the seatbelt sign. Please
And we
fasten
can
your
probably
seatbelt
do
and
the
ensure
descent
your
checklist now.
Thank you.
So pressurization is set, ice protection as required, altimeters are set, exterior lights are as required, and that's everything for that checklist. So the sun is no longer visible, but we can still see the glare above the horizon. Actually, now that I think about it, we should probably clear out this discontinuity here. And we're also going to delete this waypoint right here, since we are not going to fly to Antwerp first. We are immediately going to join the ILS. So apparently we are now below the descent profile, which is a bit unexpected. But yeah, the aircraft is now recapturing it. And now the flight plan is completely correct. That's good. And we have now officially entered the arrival for Antwerp International Airport. Actually, if you want to get a good wing view, you might be able to turn on some wing lights, if that works. Which it seems it doesn't for some reason. Oh, it does. But doesn't really change much about the visibility, to be honest. And it also is just for one wing apparently. That's weird. Seems like we have some weather to the right of us. But so far, everything above Antwerp seems pretty clear. We do have some clouds, but if there will be actually rain, that remains to be seen. Pretty uneventful descent so far. Not too steep or anything. Can zoom in just a little bit more on the navigation display now. According to the ETA of our overlay, we should be arriving in 6 minutes, but that seems a bit optimistic, I feel like, since we still need to slow down for the approach and all of that. So yeah, you should probably add at least 5 more minutes to that ETA to be accurate. But we are slowly but surely getting there. Should probably slow down just a little bit as we're getting quite fast. It seems the descent path has increased quite substantially. And then at 10,000 feet we'll start decelerating to 250 knots approximately. Might need some speed brakes to do that actually. And we're almost about to go through some clouds here. Should probably use some anti-ice now during our pass through the clouds. And we should also start decelerating now, so I'm gonna use some speed brakes to do that. Not quite that much. And we can see that the localizer and glide slope have become active, or alive I should say. And 10,000 feet, so landing lights can go on. We're now passing through the clouds. And there's 250 knots, so that's great. You can see the beams of the landing lights there in the clouds. It's gotten quite dark. Yeah, we might just need to accelerate this descent a little bit. There we go, that should be good. That we want to have the banana bar just at our initial waypoint for the approach. And let's also turn off the music now, because we're getting close to the airport. Oh yeah, I forgot to set our minimum altitude. We might be able to do that still. So we wanted 205 feet AGL, and I can hear the rain already, so it is in fact raining outside. There we go, 205 feet AGL. Getting closer to the glide slope, but not close enough. And we should also start really decelerating now. Can also set the barometric pressure now, like so. Fully extend the speed brakes. And there we go, we have ground contact.
Altitude.
There's an altitude warning, that's good. So let's actually switch to nav mode now and follow that. And also engage approach mode. And our first notch of flaps. As you can see by the angle between the aircraft and the course that we are following, it seems we have quite a strong crosswind. 33 knots it says, sorry. And there we have the glide slope coming in, so we're gonna go gear down now and our final notch of flaps. And also taxi lights. And I have the runway in sight. So, landing checklist. Gear is down, 3 green. Flaps are set full. Speed is still decelerating. We are established on the ILS approach. A little bit to the right of the glide slope, and the ice can go off as well now. And there's our landing speed. So let me just take over from the aircraft now. And get us back on the localizer. It's quite bumpy. Bit high on the glide slope, but that's fine. .500 is checked. Back on glide slope. Wind is really pushing us around here.
Minimums.
Continue. There we go, thrust to idle, start the flare. Bit of a float. And there we go, we are down. Spoilers are out. Keep the aircraft on center line. Crosswind is really strong here. And slowly start to brake the aircraft. And there we go. That landing was a little bit better than our landing at Lugano, but we kind of floated it a lot during this landing, so but that's fine. And now we can exit the runway right here. Spoilers can be retracted as well as the flaps. And we don't need our landing lights and strobe lights anymore. So yeah, welcome everyone to my home airport, Antwerp. Hope you enjoyed that landing. I certainly did. It's quite interesting with the rain and all. Weren't really able to notice the rain that much, but it was definitely there. So let's park right at the exact same spot as where we started. If that spot is still available at least. Which it seems to be, so that's great. Or maybe it... Oh no, it is free. I thought for a second there wasn't a spot between those two aircraft. Thanks Bavarian Eagle, nice to see you joining the stream once again. It's good to see a familiar name. You just missed the landing in Lugano, which was a much more interesting approach than this one. But yeah, if you have the time, you should definitely go check that out as well. But yeah, sadly, this will be the end of the stream for tonight. This was the final leg for today. So we'll go ahead and turn off the engines right now. And we can turn up the lights a little bit in the cockpit now, as well as in the cabin. I'll get rid of that alarm in just a second. There we go, beacon lights can go off as well as the taxi lights. So here we are. If I disengage approach mode, I should be able to turn off the flight director like so. Pitot-static elements can go off as well as the climate control like so. So I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it is in fact raining at this airport. Let me just turn on the sound. You hear that? Yeah, this was also quite an interesting landing, I think. So you're indeed lucky you caught it in time, but yeah, you could have obviously just watched it as a video after the live stream had ended, but I do recommend you really check out the landing at Lugano. It was very nice. And it was still during daylight, so during the sunsets approximately, so it was a very nice view. Yeah, now we are parked back at the airport where it all started today, at Antwerp International Airport, which is my home airport for the ones who didn't catch the beginning of the stream. So I've been to this airport quite a lot of times, haven't flown out of it or to it in any aircraft, sadly. That's something I would love to do in the future. But I spent a lot of time in the cafe over there and just watching the aircraft that land here. So yeah, that's going to be it for this stream today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys also enjoyed the landing we just did. I surely enjoyed the stream, and I hope to see a ton of you guys in the next one as well. Before we stop the stream, be sure you are subscribed to the channel and all of that. It helps me out a tremendous amount to get to reach more like-minded aviation enthusiasts like you guys. So all of the support that you guys give me by watching the videos and liking the video and all of that. It helps the channel out so much, so I can't thank you enough for all of the support. But yeah, for now, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.